Hello, everybody. Hey, y'all. This is Gregory. I'm one of your hosts here for the You're Too Valuable. If you're actually looking at your screen, you actually see that there's only two of us today. And I wanted to let the other host introduce themselves so that way we can kind of explain what's been going on the last couple of weeks. Go ahead, my other friend and host.
Hey guys, it's Robbie. Thanks for joining us. Glad to be with you. We've been going through some logistical challenges, but at the end of the day, we're excited to be doing this short episode, talking about the differences between 1099, salary, hourly. Whichever one screws you the most. It's going to be a heated episode. Everybody loves when
They
Greg and
don't
I
screw you the most.
put
Who keeps picking the
pushy.
titles of these episodes?
You do.
That's great. That's no. We need to make more appropriate HR friendly episode titles.
Greg.
Anyways, so I wanted to come on and say that I apologize for us for not being on for the last couple of weeks. We've had, as Robbie was saying, some logistical issues, some personal issues that's been going on, and you all know that things happen. So we decided to take some personal time to get those taken care of. And then we wanted to come on and record this episode with you so that way you kind of see my beautiful face or listen to my beautiful voice before the end of the season. And
Like nails on a chalkboard, baby.
oh no, it's not nails on a chalkboard. It's everybody loves it. That's what they're here for. And so,
So fucking-
they come here to help them fall asleep. And so I appreciate it all. I really thank you all for being here and listening in. And I'm pretty sure Jesse can actually echo all of that, as currently he is still unable to join us. And so he wanted to say hello and that he looks forward to speaking to all of us. So we'll see how that goes. So let's get back into it again. Robbie, what was it again that this episode title was, the bad title that you talked about?
Salary, hourly, or 1099. Which one screws you more?
So question, do you know what a 1099 person is?
I am a 1099 person. So yes, I do. If a business contracts me, I 100% am a 1099. Now here is the caveat: a lot of employers will try to use the verbiage 1099 employee, and that is a huge no-no. No. If an employer ever tries to tell you what to do, if you're a 1099 contractor, they are in violation of the law, folks. So make sure that you do not let them tell you how to do the job. As long as the job gets done, that's all that fucking matters.
Yes, and again, I guess I need to refresh Robbie's mindset and ears of watch your language. But yes, that is correct. You are not a 1099 employee. There should be no employee anything in there if you are a 1099. You are simply a contractor that is there to do contract work. You do not report to anyone there at the company, except for the person who hired you, and they can't discipline, anything like that. You are just a contractor. And if they need to quote unquote discipline, they just end the contract depending on what your contract terms are. So that's a simple version of what a 1099 is. Now, we're going to dive deeper into what a salary versus hourly person is. And you have your part-time, you have your full-time hourly, you have your exempt salary, and then you have your salary non-exempt and your salary exempt person. So a whole bunch of different things in there. A lot of people don't know what a salary exempt or salary non-exempt is, and they actually didn't know that actually exists out there. But I wanted to welcome, if you can actually see us in here, you can see that Robbie and I are matching today. So way to go, Robbie. Actually,
Reporting live from the White Castle. I got the matching polo to go with it. Here we go, baby.
I'm glad you got the shipment, and I'm glad we finally got it to you. It took a little bit longer for us to get that out there, but welcome.
Yep.
You are.
I'm actually really surprised. You got this
As
gold trim desk. You got this gold trim desk in here. I don't even know if I'm in the right pay class for this type of treatment.
Welcome.
You know what I mean?
It's an honor to have you into this lovely area, and we decided that you should dress the part because hey, you got to look a little bit more professional than when you come up here and enjoy these benefits. How about that?
All right, perfect. I love the White Castle benefits.
It's not a White Castle. No.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah. So let's start off. So, Robbie, what do you think? Which one do you think supposedly screws you more, an hourly or a salary person?
So I know that it's become a lot more common for the gig economy for companies to start going after, contractors in the 1099 form. I've been an hourly employee. I've been a salaried employee. I feel like there's benefits to all three of them. I feel like there's downsides to all three of them. At the end of the day, I feel like hourly is beneficial in a sense, but it also kind of encourages that 40-hour work week that I've consistently told you is outdated, and it causes people to watch the clock, and it contributes to your time and not the job that's being done. And
that was hourly that you were talking about in that situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like hourly is beneficial for people for the overtime benefits. I know that salary, there's a certain designation as well, the salary plus, where if you work 40 hours, you get paid a certain amount. If you work anything less, you get paid 40 hours. And then if you work over, you get a small stipend. That's not necessarily on par, but typically salaried employees get paid more because of their experience. They get paid more for doing their job. They have the opportunity to not stick to the 40-hour schedule so long as the job gets done. Both of those are under the ruling thumb of the employer, whereas the 1099 contractor has freedom and flexibility to do the work and set their own rules, but there comes a lot more responsibility with that designation. And I can tell you that from personal experience.
Yeah, I think you have to be a lot more disciplined with yourself and what you're doing when you're 1099. And, I think the disciplinary and responsibility efforts go up when you move from hourly to salary to potentially a 1099. And you have to, you have to be able to understand
I gave myself the worst boss. I gave myself the worst boss ever. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I would agree with that. Hey, something we can actually agree with is you having your own worst boss because he is his boss.
Oh, yeah. After seeing this White Castle, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life.
It is not white. Okay, no, okay. We're gonna. I think we have completely overdrawn.
Oh, we're never. That horse is never going to be beaten too much. That is, quite frankly, we're going to trademark that just for you, Greg. I love it.
No. All right.
Thank you, Lauren.
I have to tell you,
we appreciate that designation. Go ahead.
No, we don't. Well, they might. I don't. So for people who are exempt, you're generally working your 40 hours. Some employers try to mandate you do at least 45. And to me, I echo and I agree with what Robbie was saying is that the 40-hour work week is completely outdated. It's not necessary. There's not necessary for you to do that. Now, I will have to say that you do have to have certain collaboration times that you all need to be together and be able to do it because you need to be able to work hand in hand with your coworkers. So that allows you to kind of have that same set time frame. But you don't need 40 hours. You may need more of 40 hours some weeks. Some weeks you may need less than 40 hours. It's not necessary for you to have it. And also, it's not necessarily for you to be there from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. I love my 8 to 4 shift. That's what I tend to work most of the time. And what you need to have, or what a company should have, and I've had a company like this and I absolutely loved it, where you had a core hours, where you had, or everybody had to be available between 9 and 3. That's 6 hours that you're available. And if you can get your job and your work done within those 6 hours, perfect. But that was a time that everybody was available, so that way you could get your meetings done, and you could have meetings to plan your other meetings, and then you could have meetings to wrap up your meetings and continue to have more and more meetings. And so...
to fill up that 40-hour work week.
Yes. You have to have meetings to fill up, 3 to 5 hour meetings, 6 hour meetings, so that way you can get it all taken care of. But I think it's the same thing, that you don't necessarily need to have a 40-hour work week. Now, switching over to your hourly individuals, it's based on how much you work. And you can actually get your overtime at time and a half, or 1.5 times your rate of pay. And that's something that is very good. And it works for those who love the time punching, clocking your hours, making sure you get that. That's not for everybody. Because generally, when you're clocked in and working. And you have to work. And there's no, let me clock off for 4 hours, do what I need to do, and clock on for another 2 hours and get my work done. No. Generally somebody is necessarily there for their 8-10 hour shifts that they're needed for. So
this is why so many companies tried to return everybody back to the office, because they couldn't put their thumbs on people during the pandemic. So return to office, folks, so we can micromanage the hell out of you.
Well, and I that's something that I completely disagree with. I don't like the whole return to office thing. It has not been beneficial. There's been numerous studies out there that have shown that you actually are more you're more apt to doing a better job when you're in a comfortable situation. You're not actually having to drive into work for an hour, then driving home, and then dealing with traffic. There's a big difference. So completely different.
The companies didn't like you taking a 5-minute break to go change the laundry from the washer to the dryer, and go running down to the pharmacy while you're on the clock and not knowing that you're walking away, and they wanted to make sure that they could keep really good close tabs on you during that time. So that's why they did it. And let's face it. I mean, companies want to pay you for your time. I don't know that that's necessarily the most effective way to get the job done. And I think you and I both can agree on that.
Yeah, 100%. And like you were saying earlier, is an hourly person and a salary person, it can be beneficial based on what you want it for. Does it work for you? Now, I kind of find it hilarious earlier that you said that salary people tend to make more than hourly people. I don't know if I agree with that, because salary people... Okay, let me preface this, and you probably didn't preface that too, so I'm calling you out a little bit, I'm talking about a per hour wage. When you're a salaried individual, you make $90,000 a year, $60,000 a year, you're still dividing that out into 40 hours that can get your hourly wage. And as a salary person, you're probably going to work more than 40 hours in a work week on average. That's just the way that it works. And so, I don't know if I agree with the fact that a salary person makes more on average, potentially. On an hourly basis, on your time basis, absolutely not. I don't think that that's even remotely the same. Because when you're salary, you're working all the time. You're never quote unquote off.
Oh yeah, that I can agree with. You basically are the proper. So I'm that was a big reason I walked away from my big cushy, director level role from in a Fortune 20 company, was because I felt like I was the property of the company as a result of that salary. My phone needed to be on all the time, available all the time, and working in telecommunications, where they provide cell phone service to people. They provide a free cell phone that definitely keeps you connected at all times. So anyway,
And they can track where you're at if it's their company
hmm
phone. Depending
hmm
on how they have it set up. Who knows?
hmm hmm
But the other thing is that when you get into your hourly individuals, there's also that toss up there if you're going to be a part time hourly or full time hourly individual. And for that, that's also whether or not you're going to be benefits eligible. Because in the state of Colorado, this is not in every state, but in the state of Colorado, to be full time benefit eligible, you have to work a minimum of 30 hours a week on average. That average is typically over a year. However, some companies do have shorter intervals depending on how they set it up in their jobs. But if you work more than 30 hours in a week over the average, you are considered a full-time employee. Some
yeah.
employers will work you right at that 30 hours, the 29.9 hours, so that way they can say that you're a part-time individual, and that way you are not benefit eligible. So it's kind of interesting that there's kind of the downfalls of even the hourly individual of what you're going to be full time or part time.
I don't think that those employers should ever be able to ask for anything like a doctor's note, like be able to, you know, argue with somebody being sick for any, like if you're not willing to pay for your employees' benefits, which is the standard in our country and our country alone. I don't think that those companies should have any say when people can and cannot call out of work doing, and for whatever reason, because of obviously HIPAA laws. But that's my stance: is you don't provide
Yeah.
benefits, there's no doctor's note coming because you didn't provide me with the opportunity to go to the doctor because it's so damn expensive.
Well, it's kind of funny, and I didn't say this. I probably should have, but I was watching a short video on one of those other services that are out there, and it was somebody that was explaining this, saying, "Hey, um, my employer asked for a doctor's note, but they were only out sick for the day, and they didn't feel like they were sick enough in order to go to the doctor, and
hmm
then they had their copay of $45. They're like, okay, if you want me to go to see the doctor, reimburse me for my $45 copay. Let the
hmm
doctor know that I have to come do this because it's required for my job. But you're going to
hmm
reimburse me for that time, and you're going to pay me for that time because I'm doing it as a response to a requirement from work. And generally,
Off
when
the
it's a
clock.
requirement from work, yeah, then you're supposed to be paid for a work requirement, right? That's what
Yep,
hourly is about. So they were
exactly.
like, I respectfully declined, saying I am not going to get you a doctor's note because one, you're not paying for my time for me to go to the doctor. Two, you're not paying me for the cost that's associated with me going to see the doctor.
And especially if you're trying to skirt providing benefits. So take that,
Exactly. Yeah,
sucker.
I mean, if you're part time and don't have benefits, or unfortunately, in this country, sometimes benefits are way more expensive than some people can actually afford, even as a full time employee. Then yeah, you want to go see a doctor that's going to be couple $100 easily just to walk in the door to say hello, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk a little bit about the self-employed trap, because I think we've covered a lot about salary versus hourly. I've had in my time as a career development coach, quite a few people mention like, I wish I was doing what you were doing, and I
Yeah.
wish that I was, and that's honestly why I brought Javier on while you were on vacation with Jesse, for family stuff and. Um, for your birthday, and I wanted people to hear the opportunity about like transitioning and things like that. And I think that there was a big topic that, or a big emphasis on the topic of being self-employed, that I think sometimes, me specifically, I fall victim to this all the time. When you're solo, the line between time and money becomes a blur. And what I mean by that is, when you chase, your passion, and you're chasing trying to drive your brand and build your brand, oftentimes what that means is you're underpaying yourself. But that's somewhat the handoff and the do what you love sentiment of, actually working for yourself, not having to deal with terrible leadership, etc. You get to choose who your customers are. You can fire your customers if necessary. There's a variety of things that you get to set your own rules that I think can be quite beneficial. And, in this transition in economy, there's a big focus shift to companies wanting to do this gig economy. And I think that this is something that people should really, take a long, hard look at, because there's benefits, there's downsides, there's a lot more work involved. You have to track every little thing that you do, every mile that you drive, every hour that you spend. There's a variety of things that you have to track, every expense that you have, all of these things. But at the end of the day, that freedom and flexibility to, I'm going to take a nap until 9 p.m. and wake up and work when nobody's bothering me from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. can be very beneficial for some people, right? And as long as the job's getting done, the company can't say a damn thing to you about it. And that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we even brought this up in here. And whenever we first started talking about this particular episode, this wasn't even on my mind of a self-employed or a 1099 employee, because it's so foreign in this day and age. However, I have to say that even though it's being foreign, it's becoming more and more, prevalent out in the workforce because of, the distaste, the bad taste in people's mouth about, having to report to an employer and not having those. And, just being your own boss is difficult. The only thing is that when you're your own boss, who can you take time off with? Who can you say about being burnt out? Who can you talk to about, taking that vacation? Because if you're on vacation, you're not getting paid, right?
Yep, absolutely. And these are the types of things that I tell people that I have the conversations with. And I'm actually in the process of starting a business to help people make that transition, because I do see such a big niche market for it. Mm-hmm. One thing that I'll say is that you don't get any benefits. You don't get PTO. You get survival math. And people that are not typically accustomed to...
I like that, survival math.
Typically accustomed to setting aside 30% of every check that they bring in, saving every single receipt that they use, which some people do, and while they're employed for reimbursement, but every single receipt, for meals while you're on the job, or whatever the case is. These are the types of things that people don't account for. But at the end of the day, you're going to get a far bigger payout to basically allow you to set aside money for benefits, to set aside for, the payouts are going to be larger because you have to pay your own taxes. You have to pay for your own medical benefits. That's one of the big things, is you have to look at it from the perspective of what's more important to you, that autonomy or the perks at work that I think we talked about during the last episode. So it really comes down to what your preference is, and if you're willing to be disciplined enough to do it.
Oh, that episode that I forgot to hit the video button on, and that everybody just got to listen to us. And sorry about that, y'all. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's also the biggest thing that you also don't know about, and I think this is something you're probably going to be pointing out to whenever you're talking to your potential people, is there are no benefits. You do have to pay all of your taxes. You have to pay your Social Security taxes. You have to pay your FICA, your federal income taxes. The one thing that people don't understand that you also have to pay is your workers' comp tax or your workers' comp insurance. Because if you get hurt while you're on the job, you're a 1099. You're not covered by the workers' comp process in that company because you're not employed by that company. So, and a lot of people don't understand that you do have to get all of this insurance on yourself, because you're not covered by the company. So yeah, you may get a little bit more money, but there's also a little bit more risk in there too, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean there is, and you have to become your own accountant, which I highly suggest you don't try to go down that path, folks. I highly suggest if you decide to work for yourself, you get yourself a really good accountant because they'll give you the restrictions. I mean, depending on the state that you
Yeah.
work in, you may have to report self employed income taxes once a quarter. So, these
Yep.
are some of the logistical challenges that you may face. So you really have to ask yourself, and I think everybody in a position wanting to make that transition, is it better to be exploited by a boss or by yourself?
That's true, and that's a big question. And the other part to that question is that I would like to add is the boundaries. Is it easier to set
Hmm.
boundaries as a 1099 or as a contractor or as an employee?
I mean, as a contractor, without question, I'm going to set that.
You
I'm going
think
to set
so?
that record straight. Oh yeah, I've done the full trifecta from hourly to salary to 1099, and without question, if you don't like somebody, you can tell them to go fuck themselves and walk off the job. And
Language,
guess what?
Robbie. Oh my gosh.
Co-
Very true.
contract
I will agree with
contract
that. Very
contract
true.
is nullified, folks.
The thing
And I
is,
highly say you got to do it at least once as a self-employed person. I highly suggest everybody does that at least once. It's pretty damn. It feels pretty damn
it's
good.
kind of weird because as somebody who's in this profession and human resources is becoming more and more contractual based work. It is less and less that more companies are keeping and holding on to an actually internal HR or people ops team. And it's kind of scary in my field, but something that I want to look at. I actually was just talking to somebody before about them being a 1099 and they're in accounting. Accounting is also another one that's going that route, and it's kind of interesting that you're going that route. I like the kind of the comfort of having all of those taxes and everything paid for myself, by not by myself but by the company, because I don't know if I'm disciplined enough to do that for myself, and it's kind of sad to say, but it's true. And I like that. I've run payroll, I ran payroll, I run payroll, and so I understand all the different taxes and everything because you have your local taxes, your jurisdiction, your state, your federal, and city, and it's just uh, local municipality. It's kind of interesting the way you have all these different taxes, and
Yeah.
it's just the way that it works. And so yeah, are you being exploited by yourself with all of that because can you do it yourself, or you want to do it by a company?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's really important that we talk about kind of the game behind the pay structures for all three, and somebody that came from being on the side of dealing with corporate bullshit from an hourly perspective to moving into the one kind of contributing to the corporate bullshit, along with HR and mid-level managers and things like that. It's I feel like there's just always ways for companies to play games. And I'd like to get your perspective on HR, like your real talk about the different designations, Greg, so we have a
Yeah.
good understanding. Because I want you to pull out your, take we can take off these polos. I'm not sure that the viewers would want to see that, but at the end
Definitely
at the end of the day, I want to get your real talk on this.
Yeah, and I will share this now. Again, this is my personal belief and understanding of this. I actually, I'm going to be a little less political. I like them all in their own sense. Of course, that's my corporate talk. But my personal is salary or exempt or salary exempt employees. They tend to get taken advantage of, and I don't like that
I
because
agree.
you tend to, like we said earlier, be on the clock or be available or necessarily be available all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like
Mm-hmm.
that. You can never like get away from the job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's difficult. So when you're a salaried exempt employee, there's no off and on. It's all on. And it just it can be difficult if you don't set up those boundaries, and your company can say, "Oh, hey, your salary, you can be on when I need you to be on."
Mm-hmm. Oh
Now,
yeah.
the other part to that is you have your salary non-exempt, which is very, very, very rare that that ever happens. And basically, as an exempt, you are entitled to have 40 hours a week, no matter what. But if you work over those 40 hours, then you get paid an additional amount of pay, almost like an overtime. It's not necessarily considered overtime, but it they can kind of say it that way. And that's you have to track your time for that. You have to clock in like a normally hourly employee.
Yeah.
Um, that's not necessarily the best because also you generally only get paid at half your normal rate for any of your
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote time over or overtime over 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And then you also have the downsides of hourly and especially part time. Like we were saying earlier,
Mm-hmm.
you may not get 30 hours a week here in Colorado. That's a requirement. Some states it's 32. And if you don't get those hours every week or on an average, you get
Mm-hmm.
no benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say it, and this is again my own opinion, companies tend to kind of utilize that and being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I want to have more part-time employees because I don't have to pay their benefits. I don't have to offer them benefits." And I
Yeah.
can tell you folks, benefits are expensive. Even though there is a
Mm-hmm.
premium that you guys all pay, the amount that the company pays is probably 3, 4 times more than what you pay. I mean, we've
Oh,
all
for
probably
sure.
been laid off and gotten that Cobra notice and seen how much the full insurance is out, and been like,
But
"Damn,
it's a 100% tax deductible as well. So they get that. Don't get it twisted, folks.
oh yeah, yeah." I can't give all the secrets out there. So and so I love your hourly because you're on when you're on. The
Mm-hmm.
only downfall to that I don't like about that is you generally have to be on in a bucket amount of time. You're not really like you said. You don't. They're not wanting you to take your 5 minutes to go swap out your laundry and come back. You're working for your time that you're on the clock,
It's
and
micromanaged time, is what it is.
good way of putting it. Yes, very micromanaged time. And so there's pluses and minuses to it. As myself, I've set boundaries, and so I love my salary exempt status because I
Mm-hmm.
set my boundaries. Now, do I work more than that? Absolutely. The other day, I worked, from 8 a.m. to about 9 p.m. at night because I had to get something
Mm-hmm.
done, and so it happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I set that expectation to my employer is that is the exception. It's not the rule.
I agree. And something that I think that even with freelancers, business owners, they get the same treatment with what's called scope creep. Do you know what scope creep is, Greg?
No, I don't. See, this you're learning, you're teaching me things because I don't know a lot about this whole freelancer
So
1099 thing. I wanna learn more about this
this
from you later.
the scope of the contractual agreement between the company or contract and the contractee is the scope of responsibility and what the job entails. So, what the end result will require. You find that there's a lot of politics that goes into dealing with contractors as a contractee. And they will wine and dine you and make you feel all kinds of special and then all of a sudden the goalposts for the scope of that responsibility start moving and come on, and it's like it happens quite frequently. It happens quite frequently. Now, here's the thing: if the contractor that I've contracted with, if they've done well by me and they've given me no reason, within reason, I have no problem agreeing to some of those. But at the end of the day, I highly, highly, highly encourage people that go into starting their own businesses to be able to set those boundaries, because here's the thing. You start creeping into working well into free territory if you start trying to appease every specific accommodation that contractor has asked for, whether that's an individual, a company, a governmental entity, doesn't make a difference.
And hail to the no. Do not work for free. You are not a volunteer.
So, I'll tell you this. I'm currently working on my third business. Greg, you actually are a business owner because this is a legal LLC. So you actually you forgot to mention that. We are partners in this entity.
Very true.
I'm working on my third business, and I feel like I'm getting into Javier territory from that serial entrepreneur. But at the end of the day, I feel like I have a lot of skill sets that can benefit a lot of people. And I'll tell you this. I feel like up until about 2020, you could have a lot of skill sets, and those skill sets were beneficial to the company. But now, I feel like after 2020, companies started to discourage you from doing anything outside of your job description, and only to do your job description.
Yeah, your lane.
And I feel, stay in your lane. I love that term. I miss
roles
that term
and responsibilities.
with a wholehearted. Stay in your lane. I had a supervisor tell me that one time, and I almost told him to go fuck himself. Needless to say, I was able to regain my composure. But that was also the same supervisor that told me that he required me to have my cell phone on me at all times, even during my paid vacation. So that he can go fuck himself. Needless to say, Greg, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah, the best thing in the you can do with any job is just track everything. Make sure you track your hours. Make sure you stay where you need to, and do what's right for you. There's a lot of the things that we've been talking about that you just got to take care of yourself, and make sure you know what your worth is for yourself and who you are. And the best advice I have ever been given is learn to find a job or something you like to do, and learn how to charge for it. Because once you find that is your passion, and then you can charge for it and make that money and become that career that you want it to be, or, and just have fun with it. But know your worth, know your rights. Because if you don't know your rights, you can be walked over. And that's really sad, because that unfortunately happens more time than not these days. And I can't stand that.
You gotta fight for your right to party. Just joking.
No. Okay. No.
So one
Robbie,
thing I'll say is this.
I have to ask.
Go ahead.
I'm going to let you wrap up, but I want to ask this one. Out of all of them that you've had, since you said you worked on hourly, salary, and now you're a business owner / contractor or 1099, any one of them that you think is the best?
I would never go back to working for a company. What I would say is this. Sometimes people that go into business, they second guess, and I think you just alluded to this, understand what the costs of your business are. Understand what the costs of operation are. Don't peel away from your profits to appease just to attract business, you can't serve everyone. And if someone tries to negotiate a price down, it better be within the ability to fund the business, the operation, the task at hand. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself right out of self-employment real quick, folks. So just make sure, like Greg said, know your worth and stick to that worth. That's critically important. And, you know, one thing I want to talk about lastly is if you have questions about how your employer is treating you, how your employers have maybe mismanaged time, or if you're interested in learning about the steps it takes to starting a business, you've got a lot of knowledge on this podcast between the three hosts. You're always welcome to reach out to us. We have our email addresses individually. Rob@your2val.com, you the letter U, the letter R, the number 2, VAL.com, Greg@your2val.com, Jesse@your2val.com. You can send us messages, direct messages on any of the social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Doesn't make a difference. We will always take the time to give you the best sound advice that we possibly can. And if you need that to be an anonymous question, send it to stories@your2val.com. Now, to close this out, we are going to be taking a hiatus for a while for the remainder of the year. I have an impeding surgery that's coming up here pretty quickly that will be putting me out of commission for probably until the end of the year. And so everybody can spend quality time with their friends and family during the holiday season. I know that that's critically important to a lot of people. Yes. We are going to be resuming after the first of the year. So, Greg, do you have anything before we close out?
No, I just wanted to say I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I cannot wait to come back for the new year and our season. I have thoroughly missed all of this over the last couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. I know there's like a tease of one of them, and the things that we're going to talk about is like toxic bosses. Oh, I cannot wait to talk about that kind of a topic because that's a big for me. I'm all about it. And so I might have to just not wear a polo that time because I might have some strong opinions on that kind of topic when we get there. But I would say thank you to all of you for listening. It's been wonderful, and I cannot wait to come back to see and chat with all of you again. And send us those stories at stories@your2val.com, and then any topics you want us to talk about. We're open. We can't wait.
Absolutely. And one last thing that I want to touch on is this has been a great season 1. There's been a lot of learning curves and logistical challenges that have made us better, an understanding of the podcast industry and what that looks like, and the highs, the lows, the blood, sweat, the tears that have gone into this. I could not be more grateful, and I know that Greg and Jesse can absolutely resoundingly agree with that statement. With that being said, we are taking everything that we've learned from season 1, and we are working towards making an even better season 2. We're going to have great topics, great content, great guests, just all around the board. We are working to make this a much better podcast, and we're going to keep digging, pressing Greg's buttons as much as we can. I know that that's really the fun part. Everybody likes pressing HR's buttons a little bit, but at the end of the day, go ahead.
End of the day, I just want to say, and I'm going to try. It's been really sad because everybody who's my HR friends and stuff who've listened to the podcast, they're like, I don't know if I want to go in there. That's really rough. I'm going to get a couple of minutes so that way we can, battle it back out a little bit more for y'all.
Perfect. I love it. Well, with that being said, it has been a fantastic season 1. And with that being said, you're too valuable out. You guys take it easy now.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
Bye.